Hey guys, Miss Naylor here. We're going to be on page 18 of your Roots book today. It's Ante Anti, and it means before. And I always think of a big arrow swooping backwards when I think of this root. To help me remember it, that's the image I draw. The ante spelling always means before. And it can be before in place, so if I'm standing in front of Mrs. Raines in line, I'm before her in line. Or before in time, so if I get someplace before Mrs. Raines gets there. We have words like anteroom and anterior are before in place, and we're going to talk about both of those words. And words like ante and antedate are before in time. So let's look at the first of these words. Oh, maybe. There we go. Ante. The amount each poker player must put into the pot before receiving his cards. We're actually going to look at a quick scene from the movie Maverick that involves this word. So you're going to see some poker players.
All right, Peter, you can start your game. And everyone, $50. Well, let him bluff you, Annabelle. I'm betting on you.
And hopefully you just heard him say, "Ante up, everybody, $50. So that's the initial amount they have to put in order to be able to participate in the game. That's what ante is. So feeling confident, he upped the ante, right? He raised how much each player had to put in. And that is a noun, and it just has that one root in it because that is the root, ante, right? Alright, our next word is antecedent, so it has that root ante, meaning before, and sed, meaning to go. You're going to need to know that root too. It is a noun. It has two very related meanings. So the first one is anything that logically goes before something else. For example, cricket is the antecedent of baseball. Cricket came before baseball. The game baseball probably came from cricket, right? It came before. The other one is the word, phrase, or clause to which a pronoun refers. So here we go. Miss Naylor fell down the stairs. That's my first sentence. She almost broke her arm. So the pronoun here is she, and it refers back to Miss Naylor, right? Who is she? She is Miss Naylor. So the antecedent is Miss Naylor. The sentence in the book. In the sentence, every boy was in his place. Boy is the antecedent of the pronoun his. Our next word, antedate. To occur before something else. It is a noun. Doesn't have any other roots in it, but it should be pretty easy to remember, right? Before the date, antedate, to occur before something else. Our sentence, the Revolutionary War antedates the Civil War. You'll see we have a castle here, right? And then we have some much older pottery, so this antedates this. It came before. Our next word is antemeridium. And it comes from two roots. I know it looks like two words, but they work together and they kind of go together here, so think of it as one. Okay? We abbreviate it as AM. Comes from the roots ante meaning before and meridi meaning noon. So if you can remember that, ante meaning before and meridi meaning noon, you should be able to remember the meaning, before noon. I have an appointment at 10 a.m., standing for antemeridium, right? Hopefully you'll remember that anyway, because you're familiar with AM, so if you knock this down to those first letters, you'll remember, oh, before noon, I know what AM means. Anterior. Adjective. Located before or in front. That's the part of the definition you really need to know. Located before or in front. Then this might help you, as opposed to posterior, located behind. The anterior legs of the kangaroo are shorter than the posterior ones. Anterior, posterior. I also like to think about how a kangaroo has an anterior pouch, and how the original Volkswagen Bugs had their engines in the front. So they had anterior engines. Anteroom. A room before the main room, a waiting room. And there's an excellent Seinfeld joke about this, so we're going to take a quick glance at that. The anteroom.
It's that little bit of arrogance in the medical community I think we could all live without. Like when you go to see the doctor, you don't see the actual doctor first. You must wait in the waiting room. There's no chance of not waiting. That's the name of the room. The doctors are all back there. Well, we can't take them now. We've already got this room.
I know that Seinfeld doesn't actually use our root word for this week, but I was hoping that hearing the joke will help you remember anteroom means a waiting room, right? And that you have to wait there when you're at the doctor. So that space where you wait at the doctor, that's an anteroom. Look at that. Alright, we're going to shift now. There is a variant spelling. Ooh, fancy word variant. It means it's different, right? A-N-T-I, that also means before in time in some words. Now, later on we're going to be looking at the root anti, meaning against or opposite. Here it's usually pronounced anti. So remember, when you see A-N-T-E, A-N-T-I together, we're talking about before, okay? So let's start looking at words with A-N-T-I meaning before in them. Oh, next slide. Anticipate, to take before, to realize beforehand. No one anticipated such an outcome. It's from the roots ante meaning before and cap meaning to take, so pretty literally to take before, right? And it is a verb. Then we have antiquated, so old as to no longer be useful. I want to let you know I'm definitely using these gentlemen's pictures with their permission. They know I took a picture of them. But these examples all exist. Here we have something so old as to no longer be useful. Paper dictionaries are very rarely used anymore because you can ask Siri, you can look it up on your phone, so many other ways to look up words. We don't really use typewriters anymore. They're so big and heavy and cumbersome, and I mean, why would I type anything on that when I can just type it on my laptop or on my iPad? That seems silly, right? And then of course we have some of our favorite teachers. So antiquated is an adjective, and let's listen to the sentence from the book. The factory had to replace the antiquated machinery. It was so old they couldn't use it anymore. Antique. It's a noun belonging to an earlier period, so a time before. In the parade were a dozen antique automobiles. Very nice, very nice. Hopefully you're familiar with this kind of antique, the Antique Roadshow. I think we've all seen it at some point, or at least heard a little bit about it. And look, antique cars. They knew we were coming, and we were going to be talking about antique cars. So, on this particular show, they look at things from the past, and they give people an idea of how much it might be worth now. Ooh, fancy, right? So, antique. Belonging to an earlier period. And our last word for this week, antiquity. Now it's very similar. Both antique and antiquity are nouns. Antiquity is ancient times, though. So the museum specializes in armor from antiquity, right? You can see we have different images that represent civilizations from antiquity. So we have the Egyptians and the Greeks and the Romans, right? And those are all civilizations from antiquity. Notice that I'm using that as a noun, okay? I hope that this has been helpful. I hope you've highlighted all your words and your roots and underlined all your definitions. If not, you need to go back and do that right now. And then you're going to need to do exercise 1 and exercise 2. After that, you can go ahead and work on your Kia assignment. Remember, you can take that Kia as many times as you want until you get 100. So, you want to have every single solitary answer correct. Remember, it's only 2 questions. It has a lot of different options, but it only counts as 2 questions. So it's a 0, a 50, or a 100. Those are the only grades you can get, okay? Best of luck. Study hard. Do well on your roots quiz, okay? Bye, guys.